This is an interesting and exciting podcast for me because you're also going to be speaking at today's event. For people that are learning about you for the first time, like why you're in Seoul, what you're up to here. Can you share a little bit of background in terms of what you do professionally?
Sure. So my name is Miri, and I currently run a college admission consulting company called My College Consulting, and it's an online based. Our company is legally based in California, but we made it online and we provide services to 32 different countries. So our employees are all over the places. And that gave me freedom for where I wanted to live. So I chose Korea, and I came to Korea 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yes.
And just in terms of the company and you starting this like kind of college education company, why did you originally start to decide to like take this on?
Yeah. So my academic background is that I studied computer science at MIT, but I've done like 7 different internships, and I changed my major from chemical engineering to computer science. And I really tried hard to find what I wanted to do and what I'm good at, what I like to do, etc. And during the process, I faced YouTube, and I wanted to kind of put my story in there, how my life at MIT wasn't as glorious as what people should think. So I kind of put my honest opinion about MIT and myself, and that video kind of went viral at that time. And then people kind of started to reach out to us about like, can you teach my kid? Can you teach our children about like admissions and whatnot? And my co-founder at that time, she was studying PhD and master's in higher education and admissions. So that was our common ground altogether. So we started to kind of put out the services about admissions, and that company really grew quickly over 4 years.
Wow.
And now it's my full time.
So the way that I think first connected was Jin, who I interviewed recently, also MIT alum, had mentioned you. And then it's interesting because with some of the people that I meet, like the connections come from all different directions. And then your sister had also come to one of the Cambridge events in New York City through Lydia, and she's going to be there tonight. You know Lydia or no?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I do.
So yeah, Lydia will be at the event tonight.
Awesome.
So you and your sister both went to MIT as well,
Yes.
right? I'd love to explore kind of the background and experience there, and also this YouTube video that you posted about your experience at MIT and how it wasn't all like all glory and fun. Like, can you share a little bit about what that was about?
Yes. So in high school, my family wasn't coming from a very wealthy background, so we didn't get much of a academic support about like consulting or like tutoring, etc. So we really had to work hard to really push our way through. And at the school, we moved our school from 9th grade to 10th grade to private to public school, and the public school was really big. And our upperclassmen happened to went to Ivy League, and it was a very good like track recorded school. So at that point, I was like, oh, like you can go to Ivy school. Like I thought it was just a dream like story to me, but like it can really happen. So from that point, I became like really weird mom-like person that asking everyone what they did about their summer camps, about their curriculum, about their extracurricular awards, and I tried to follow everything they've done. And my goal was to get to really top tier college, and I thought going to the top tier college will really spend my life out to like another golden stage. And then that really brought me to like a lot of Ivy acceptances, including MIT. And I chose MIT just because MIT was ranking #1 in the world at that time. And I knew I wanted to go to STEM field. And other than that, I didn't have any other reason that I wanted to go to MIT, but I should have. Like at that time, I should have really thought about my future, what I wanted to do and whatnot, but I only thought about the brand and the ranking of it. And I chose MIT. And after that, I thought the world will feed me and world will confine me.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be all glorious all over again. But it was a whole another start from there. Like going to MIT was another whole journey. And then I had to again find what I wanted to do. And that journey was really difficult because I really never explored myself. I only explored what society wanted from me, like branded college, branded internships, like really big brand companies and money and whatnot, but I really never explored about myself. And that was really difficult at MIT. And that ended up choosing like 7 different internships. And every internship I chose that, oh, this is really it for me. But instead of that thought, I was like, oh, this is not it for me. Like, I don't want to do this. So I did like software engineering, like project manager, program manager, like product manager, designer, research analyst, and like venture analyst. I've done like almost all fields that I could think of, but that all ruled out for me.
You had 7 different internships during your MIT experience?
Yeah.
Wow. And when was it when you had posted that kind of video on YouTube?
So it was when I was going to IBM after college. So after 7 internships, and I wanted to go to the full-time for company. But at that time, I was like, okay, like, why did I work so hard? And what should I live for? Like, why am I living? So I went to the 6-month backpacking trip with no plan. I just wanted to find my purpose of my life. So I went all over the places in Asia and Europe, and I still couldn't find what I wanted to do. But the only realization I had was the weather. If the weather was really great, I would feel happy. And for a whole 6 months, I learned all over again how to be thankful for the small things. Until then, I only drove myself about the worldly things, about like money and like brand, how people see me, etc. And that really lost capacity for me to be thankful for small things that has happening daily. And I think that's what I learned over that trip. So after that, I was like, okay, maybe I feel happy, not from the money, but maybe from the good weather. So I moved to Irvine, California, and then went to IBM. And then IBM life wasn't happy to me either. So I put out like the videos about the traveling because I wanted to be a travel YouTuber. Yeah. And then COVID hit. So, and that kind of turned our direction to talking about MIT, and that video blew up. So it didn't like blow up like crazy amount, but it gained quite a traction to emails and like comments. So from there, it kind of turned my life to academics, to education from tech.
Wow. Now, even in kind of your childhood or before college, you had said that you were like intensely focused on getting into an Ivy League caliber type of school. Your kind of upbringing is quite unique as well in terms of your experience in Korea and then your experience in the States. Can you share a little bit about that background too?
Sure. So I grew up in the army base because my dad was a general soldier. So I only grew up in army base, not in Seoul. So my experience in Korea was very country based because army base is usually in the countryside. And we had to move every 2 years. So I went to like 4 different elementary schools, and like we moved quite a lot.
All over Korea?
Yes, all over Korea. Only countrysides. So that kind of like gave me the opportunity to really adjust to the new environment. And when I hit 12, my parents wanted me to learn English. So they sent me to my aunt's house in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I grew up there for about like 6 months to a year. And then I came back to Korea because our goal wasn't to go to US college. It was just to pick up English a little bit more. And I came back to Korea. And then I used to hit like only rank number 1 at school. But when I came back, I couldn't hit that rank anymore. Like the academic pace at Korea was really fast. And I couldn't catch up. So I like avoided that environment and came back to US because US academic was pretty slow paced compared to Korea. And I liked that just because I didn't need to study that hard.
And how old were you when you first went to Michigan? 12. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So, and that kind of left me there in US until another 20 years. And I came back to Korea 3 years ago.
And your parents were supportive of the decision for you to stay in the States?
Yes. But they didn't follow me. They were just staying in Korea, and I was in aunt's house by myself. So I grew up separately from my family. Yeah.
And in the States, you were based in Minnesota for most of your upbringing and youth, right?
Yes.
And what was that experience of living in Minnesota, and also the like the community, your friends, like integrating into U.S. society at that age? You enjoyed it?
Yeah, so my first experience was Michigan, and I couldn't speak a bit of English at all. So
Right.
at that time, we had a dictionary, electronic dictionary. You probably won't know, but the foreigners like us was like, it was an error to us. So without that, we couldn't even speak. So we typed something, and if you press speak, it speaks for you, translated, because we didn't have a smartphone back then. So I brought that everywhere with me, but then I couldn't pick up what they were trying to say. So I wrote like a script for my daily conversation.
Yeah.
And if the person doesn't follow my script, I just end my conversation there. I was like, oh, thank you, and I just go.
Yeah.
So with that, I kind of picked up English like that. But in the beginning, I ate lunch in the bathroom because like US lunchtime, they somehow gather in the lunch table and
Right.
they eat together.
Right.
And I wasn't used to that.
How does it work in Korea?
In Korea, we all like line up and we kind of sit in a regular space.
Oh, you get assigned seats for lunch?
My school did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was kind of used to like the lineups and like we sit one by one, etc. But in US, we all like gathered by friend group and then
Right.
we sat together.
Right.
And it was very difficult for me because I didn't have a friend when I just entered that school. But the school is really small. It was a Christian middle school. So they were really nice. And I wasn't, they weren't being racist or whatnot. And they treated me really well. So they came to bathroom to find me that I was like eating, oh, Miri, like, let's eat together. But I was eating together with them, but I couldn't speak, obviously. And the first day, the U.S. school gave me nachos as lunch. And I was like, that was very, very shocking to me.
Yeah.
So I called my parents and I was like this school gives me like the snack as my lunch and
Yeah.
they don't give us rice or some other bread.
Yeah.
So that was very shocking. Yeah. So Michigan was really fun. And I was doing like a cheerleading captain, like volleyball, baseball. So it was very free experience for me compared to Korea education.
And so you started in Michigan and then you moved to Minnesota?
Yes, for high school.
And how come you moved?
So I was staying in aunt's house for 3 years in middle school. And then I was kind of hitting puberty and like wanting to kind of secure my own space. Although my aunt was being really, really nice to me, I, for some reason, didn't want to speak to them because of my mental like puberty issues. So I went to the boarding school in Minnesota because I wanted to have my own space. So we moved to Minnesota and we had another whole family in Minnesota. So I had my grandma there. So I moved to Minnesota boarding school. But the experience there wasn't really great either. That was my first time seeing a bunch of Koreans living in boarding school. And I couldn't get used to another Korean people.
Oh, really? So you saw there were a bunch of other Koreans at the same boarding school
Yes.
as you in Minnesota. Like how many and how big was the school?
It wasn't like too big either. It was
Yeah.
like maybe 50 kids per grade. But the Korean people were like 10, like 1/5 of that
Really?
school. It was a lot.
Huh.
Yeah, it was really surprising.
Wow.
So my middle school didn't have like few Koreans, but they were all like English speakers. They didn't speak Korean. So basically I was the only one who was speaking Korean there. But in high school, it was a bunch of like Korean fobs there. And the Korean culture was very different from what I expected. And that kind of brought me to like another seclusion of that community. And I couldn't get used to it. So I asked my parents I wanted to move my school. And my parents kind of put the green card request like 10, 15 years ago. And that happened to come out when I was in 10th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, in a good timing. So we moved to a public school in 10th grade, which was really, really big, maybe like 1,000 students per grade. So it was a whole another adjusting at that point.
And during your youth while you were in the US, would you come back to Korea regularly to visit your family?
Not really. My parents visited me. Like I didn't visit Korea that often.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you have your younger sister is how many years younger than you?
4.
4 years. And she also spent time in the States as well, like
Yes.
kind of similar experience to you?
So when my family came in my 10th grade, when I moved to public school, my whole family came. That's when my sister came. So until then, I grew up separately from my family. And then they came in 10th grade to live with me. And that was very awkward.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but we had to go through that, and I thought when my family comes, I could, lean on them, and I could only focus on admissions and studying. But my parents kind of left all their jobs in Korea, and they came all fresh, new to Minnesota. And that was very difficult for them. And the language was difficult for them. And my younger sister was also struggling with language in the beginning, although she did more than well than me.
Yeah.
Like she is very like outgoing compared to me. So she adjusted really, really well, but still like she couldn't speak English that well in the beginning. So I kind of had to support my family like in language wise and to support the environment. And that really bothered me for some reason. I should have supported them because they supported me, but during that stage I was just focused on admissions and I wanted to study, and I was very sensitive, so I couldn't support my family really well, and that caused a lot of trouble within the family too.
Now, the original decision to live in the States was really like your independent decision of you preferring to live in the States versus Korea, right? And you said like part of the reason was because like academically, like Korean environment, you just much preferred the U.S. environment, right? Because Korean environment was quite different, but still you were very like driven academically, right?
Yes.
It's kind of interesting the fact that in Korea you didn't like maybe like the competitive aspect of it or just like the pace of it, but then in the States you still were very academically focused, right?
Yes, that's a very good point. Like I left Korea because I didn't want that academics, and in US academic was the only thing I was good at compared to other people. Like I was small, like I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't really speaking English really well. Like I wasn't really good at everything. But the only subject that I was good at was math, because math wasn't related to language. It was all numbers. So that was the only thing I could excel in US. And that brought me back to academics. Yeah.
So throughout high school, you did very well in academically, and then your goal, like throughout high school, was to get to a top tier college.
Yes, I thought that was my only rope that I could survive in my life. So that was the only like thing I was holding on to. I was driving academically, and I was asking like upperclassmen what they did, and I was following them, and I was doing a lot of leadership in the clubs that I was leading, like math club and like science olympiad and flute and etc. So I think that leadership also helped as a foreigner. And I wrote an essay and an interview and everything. So I think that kind of all over the place in a whole view kind of brought me to the good top tier colleges.
Now, the experience in Minnesota, like when we chatted virtually before, you talked about like your family and their presence in Minnesota, and then also like these other kids, these kind of like FOB Korean kids at the boarding school. Were you involved in Korean community in Minnesota, or when you were in like boarding school, high school, was it pretty detached?
I wasn't, because Minnesota itself doesn't have many Koreans. Maybe nowadays we do, but at that time we didn't have many Koreans. So there weren't really community that I could be involved with. And my high school was my world. I didn't go out of high school. And Minnesota doesn't really have a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
We only have like Mall of America.
Yeah.
And like cornfields or something.
Yeah.
And it's really cold. So I couldn't go out. I wasn't driving, and I didn't have many friends. So I don't have many friends back in high school. Like I only studied. I was only focused on like college. Other than that, I was very socially awkward. Yeah.
So the experience of getting into MIT, I mean, obviously now the company that you're working on is helping advise students on how to get into these top tier colleges. You had a lot of knowledge just from the upperclassmen above you in high school about the education process, or like how much exposure information did you have in terms of how to get to these top schools?
That's a great question. So because I couldn't get a formal support about consulting and tutoring, I uploaded my resume and my application online on public. So at that time in Korea, there was like a hackers platform, Town platform. Like there were a lot of platforms that people are using. I think it's all dead as of today, but that was very active back then. So I uploaded my application, and there was a risk that people might copy my essays and application and whatnot, but I was very desperate. So I uploaded, and I was like, can you just someone please comment about like my application or help me anything about my application. So hundreds of anonymous people, they left comments and feedback under that post.
But you uploaded it in English, right? Or you uploaded it in Korean?
In Korean.
In Korean, but everything was originally written in English, and then you just translated it and then was asking for help publicly. Wow, that's a pretty wild approach. I've never heard of doing something like that before.
I know. I was just crazy.
Yeah, but it works.
It worked. It worked. I think I was very lucky case. And I got a lot of feedback from anonymous people. That might have confused me, but at the same time, I was trying to consume all the feedback that they were trying to say. And I gave my like application review to my upperclassmen, like everyone I knew. So I was getting a lot of feedback by the community, and that kind of gave me a lot of insights that was not typical from the consulting space. And then I learned that admission is just not about academics. It's about the branding who you are. And that was a very big realization. And from there, I started to brand myself. I started to learn myself. And that's when I was really learning a lot about myself. So that gave me a lot of insights. And when I went to MIT, from there, like MIT admissions reached out to me because they thought my essay was really good. Because I wrote my essay, personal statement about the letter to my dad. I didn't know how to write personal statement. So I was like, okay, what do I write about? So I just wrote a letter to my dad about my honest opinion about the whole move, like how it was awkward to be with a family and how difficult it was without, financial support and whatnot. And I was being brutally honest in my personal statement. I think that really gave them the insight about who I am. So they were like, okay, do you want to work in the admissions? So I was like, oh, sure. So I worked in the MIT admissions for about a year.
Wow. Wait, while you were a student? Wow. Okay. Interesting.
I wasn't like formal admission officer.
Right.
But there was like admission support that they needed. So I worked there for a year. And then after that, I was reached out by like Korean companies, admission consulting companies, if I can work as a consultant. So I started as a consultant when I was at MIT remotely. And then I met my co-founder who was also working as a admission consultant at a certain company. And she was also studying like master's and PhD in the higher education, specifically about like admission trend and whatnot. So she had a lot of data and system, and I had my experience. So we started to combine our things together, and then we founded a company.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So you founded the company at MIT initially, or this was after MIT?
After MIT.
After MIT. But you guys first met at MIT?
No, we met in Irvine, California.
You met in Irvine.
Yeah. So there was a conference called KSEA, Korean Scientists Engineers Association. So I met her there at that conference. Yeah.
Now, during MIT, like you getting into MIT and the 4 years that you experienced there, in terms of what your expectations were immediately before arriving and how you would describe your experience overall, how would you summarize it?
To MIT experience?
Yes.
I feel like MIT and Ivy League school is really, really great system if you know how to utilize it. But I don't think I knew how to utilize it. I changed my major. I was very going all over the place. And I didn't like academic place setting there. And although I was pretty driven academically until high school, when I got to MIT, I was like one of the dumbest there. Everyone was so smart, and MIT became my world. And I started to think that I was really dumb. Although I had to get out of that perspective, like it was very hard to get out of that perspective for some reason. And I started to think, okay, my self-esteem was getting low. I thought I was academically dumb. So I had to find something I was good at. And that was hosting networking parties. So I hosted a lot of networking parties in Boston and New York. So students started to recognize me, and they were like, oh, do you know Miri? Do you know Miri there? Like, so it was my friends all over the places. That was my only good things that I did in Boston. And people knew me as an organizer. And that really extended my network in Boston and New York to Korea too, because I was inviting a lot of Korean speakers too. Other than that, I wasn't really excelling academically. Although my GPA was pretty good, it was good just because I had a lot of friends. They helped me a lot.
Yeah. That's a very important part of life in general though, right? When you say like, in terms of the challenges of MIT for somebody that doesn't know how to utilize the system, What do you mean by that? Like, in what ways do you think, looking back now, had you repeated your experience, how different it could be, like the specific things that you would do differently?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I entered as chemical engineering, knowing chemical engineering was just about chemistry.
And did you like chemistry, or did you like?
I did. I loved chemistry. I loved chemistry and math.
Uh-huh.
But if you enter chemical engineering, if you want to earn money, you usually go into the oil industry,
Right?
Like Shell and I didn't know that part. And I had to really search about how major brings you to the career, but I didn't do that. I only searched about the major and the college brand name, and I didn't think about my career. And that gave me a lot of baffled emotions. And I moved to computer science, not because I loved coding, only because it gave me a lot of opportunities to combine with something that I wanted to do in the future. And if I go back to MIT, I would have searched about careers more. Like, I didn't know what computer science, I thought computer science was only bringing to engineering to 100%. But now that I look back, computer science can bring to a lot of different jobs.
Right.
And so is chemical engineering. But my perspective was really limited at that time. So I thought, computer science was to engineering. Chemical engineering was to Shell. That was my only connection. And that didn't give me any answers. So I only did networking parties because I wanted to learn from people's experience. And I thought I couldn't learn from MIT. So if I knew about career situations more and I gained more interest in coding and like engineering or maybe product manager or program manager, then I would have enjoyed academic at MIT more and the club activities more and opportunities more and research opportunities more, then I would have learned more. But I feel like I didn't catch as much as what MIT provided.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think that on many levels, especially with my experience at Stanford, I can resonate a lot of trying to connect the dots, not just think about like how much money does it make and what do other people think about the major. A lot of that resonates. Now, when you say you started hosting these networking parties, like when you had mentioned your experience in high school, for example, you said like even today you don't have that many friends from high school because you were mostly just like focused on your studies, right, and academically inclined. What had motivated you to host an event and like hosting that first networking party? Was it intimidating?
Yeah, your questions are very sharp. So I used to have very like outgoing personality from the very young age because I moved a lot for every 2 years and I had to adjust to a new environment. So high school was difficult for me because I had to focus on something else. But my natural born instinct is I love people. Like I'm very extrovert, but my high school years were very introvert lifetime for me. So it wasn't difficult for me to host networking parties. I felt like I was gaining my life back from high school. Like I thought I was losing my life in high school, and MIT, by hosting a lot of parties and like events and like meeting a lot of people, they gave me a lot of lights and like energy. So I was very happy doing that. But I was like, what is this bringing in my life? I know a lot of people, but they're not like feeding me or they're not like dragging me to somewhere. I still had to lead my life myself, but I didn't know how to do that either. I was just trying to depend on other people. I thought other people will help my life for some reason. So those networking parties ended up having a lot of good people around me and in my life too. But I was still baffled about my life. And I thought that wasn't really bringing the core fruit in my life that I wanted to do. And that's why I left to the backpacking trip, because I thought I tried everything in my life, like academic, people, like financials, and like I was just trying everything I could think of, and none of them was just giving me answers to my life. So I just left everything. Wow.
And it was while you were at MIT that you took the backpacking trip, or was it after you graduated?
After graduating.
After you graduated. Now, like Jin had talked a little bit about the like Korean community at MIT. The networking events that you hosted, they were mostly like Korean heritage focused?
Yes, only Korean heritage.
Yeah. And is that because you were just most comfortable like hanging out with that kind of crowd? Or like you had mentioned in high school you weren't too involved with like the Koreans there, but at MIT kind of a different story? Yeah,
because I moved to US when I was 12, I think that hit me like missing Korea like very hard. I missed Korea every single year. I wanted to go back to Korea every single year.
Really? But did you ever consider actually moving back? Because you originally decided to leave Korea, right? After your time in the States, did you like ever ask your parents, I want to move back to Korea?
No, because I was afraid that I couldn't follow up, like I couldn't catch up with the Korean academics, and I was very scared of that. So I wanted to move after college. Like as soon as I finished academics in US, I wanted to go back to Korea. I was describing US as like beautiful academic jail, because other than that I didn't enjoy US at all. Like I couldn't connect culturally.
Right.
I was only watching like Korean drama shows and like reality shows. I didn't watch any of the US shows. So until today I barely know any of the US like popular shows like Friends and like Big Bang Theory or Celebrities. I'm very low knowledge based in US because I never watched TV in US. Yeah. So when I went to MIT, I wanted to kind of gather my own heritage again. So I only hosted events with Koreans. I only hung out with Koreans. So I don't have any American friends at MIT.
Yeah.
So it became very weird because I thought I was being away from Korean heritage and I only hung out with US students. But back in MIT, now that I thought I was hitting the goal of the academics, I thought getting into MIT was the peak of my academic goal. And then I wanted to do everything I wanted to do. So I started to shun away US people. I only hung out with Korean people, being a leader in Korean group and like hosting Korean networking parties. And I was very immersed in Korea. So I was just loving everything about Korea because I was missing Korea the whole time.
Wow, it's crazy. Yeah, even with Cambridge, in terms of some of the events that I've hosted, I've hosted most of the events in Seoul, but then I hosted one in Vietnam, two in Bay Area, and then one in New York City. And because there are these large Korean diaspora communities everywhere, I mean, some people, they go to the States and they don't even really like interact too much with American culture just because there's such a big Korean community there. And in part, it's maybe like a shame that they don't have opportunities to integrate as much into the culture. But as it relates to like Cambridge, there's a lot of interesting projects, interesting events that I can host around the world because Korea is so global. With your experience like immediately after MIT and then doing the 6-month trip, you didn't really know what would happen after those 6 months. You didn't have job situation lined up, or
well, like IBM reached out to me before I went to the trip, but I told them that I don't want to go back now.
Oh, because you did an internship there. Is that right? Or?
No, I just applied for some reason because when I was applying to companies, I didn't have a plan to go on a backpacking trip. So I wanted to go to the big company and I applied to like IBM and other big companies and I got accepted to IBM. But I was the thought was keep hitting myself that like, should I really go to the company? Would it still make me happy? The only reason I chose IBM was, again, like it was a brand, like big company.
Right.
I didn't have a heart in IBM and I had to earn money too. But I, chose to leave everything. So I told IBM that I'm going on a 6-month backpacking trip. And if you can wait for that, then I'll come back. If not, I'm not, just, let go of me. But they said that they will wait. But still, like, I didn't have a plan to go back to IBM. I just wanted to have that as an insurance, to be honest. And I went on to the trip. And after that, I lost all my motivation about like money and the brand and like everything. I only gained motivation about being happy. So I kind of lost motivation to go to the recruitment process again. So I just went back to IBM because that was my insurance.
Wow. And so you went back to IBM. You were in Irvine, right?
Yes.
While you were there. And that's when you started this whole new startup kind of company.
Yeah,
right?
It was for fun. It was for the travel YouTube. But then kind of that grew into admission education YouTube.
And at some point you decide to leave your job in tech and move to Korea. Like that kind of thought process. And like, can you walk me through a little bit about how that happened?
Sure. So I was doing a travel YouTuber at IBM, but when I turned to academics, I moved to Amazon. So I was doing a program manager at Amazon, and I was kind of growing my YouTube channel as an education channel at that point. And then growing my company just was really fast paced compared to the company life. And in 3 months, the revenue that we were hitting monthly was already hitting my Amazon monthly salary. So I was like, okay, like this is good money base resources, and this is fun. And we made this remote, so I was very flexible. And I was doing that for another whole 2 years in US. And then we were only doing the client for Korean clients, because we wanted to, we had a heart in Korea, and then the education that we provided, we thought it was perfect for Korean people and Korean culture first. And if the revenue was going down, if the company wasn't growing fast enough, then we had a plan to expand to global, like to US students too. But I didn't know the Koreans were that many all over the places. I thought Korean people were only like Korea and like Irvine and like LA and New York.
Yeah.
But we were providing services to 32 different countries.
Wow.
Like Abu Dhabi, like Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, every countries that we didn't even hear of. So we're like, okay, there were a lot of Koreans all over the place, and they don't have a good consulting companies in those areas. Consulting companies are mainly based in Korea, New York, maybe in LA. But other than the big cities, consulting companies don't even exist. So they were kind of relying on the YouTube channel, and then they were all contacting us because we were on YouTube and we provide services remotely. So that really helped us grow quickly. And then we were already full capacity just providing to Korean people. And we didn't even think of expanding globally because it was already keeping us busy. And we're like, okay, so now that we look to Korea as a country was kind of going down like a lot from the news. We were hearing a lot of bad news about Korea, about like low birth rate, low like, older generation and like depression rate and whatnot. So we're like, okay, how can we help Korea from US? And one part was education. Now that we keep connecting to Korean people, there were a pattern that Korean students were showing. Like majors were like 50 to 70 majors are out there, but Korean students are only focused on like maybe less than 5 majors, like computer science, biology, physics, philosophy or something like that, or business. But other than those majors, they don't know the majors exist because they didn't get an experience. And they didn't get an experience to really explore themselves. And that kind of brought them the low acceptance rate to Ivy League for the Korean students. And we wanted to solve that issue. And I was thinking, okay, how can I solve that issue more than the company? Like, how can I help Korea? So I decided to move back to Korea to really see what the issues are here. And I went to like parliament to education department to talk to like a parliament people.
Wow.
And I talked to a lot of education related CEOs and whatnot, but they were all saying the same thing, how this is like hell Korea. There is a saying called 해조선. That means Korean people call Korea 해조선, meaning this is a hell place. And I didn't like hearing that. I loved Korea. I always had Korea in my heart. And Korean people are really smart and they're really nice and they're really brilliant. They're creative.
Right.
But the education that Korean people were receiving was very straightforward, and that didn't give enough opportunity to explore about themselves. And after college, or in college, until college, they study really hard. They go through like this 수능 system, like the yearly test system they go through. And at college, they don't explore themselves. They just drink. And after that, they try to go to the big company. And it's just a typical route that they take.
Right.
And I also did the same thing. And there are a bunch of like me in Korea, and I wanted to kind of rescue them. I don't know if the rescue is the right word, but I wanted to help them to really being happy and really grow Korea as a nation. So I was like, okay, maybe I should just change my nationality from US to back to Korea.
Really?
And then go to education department. But then a lot of people told me that changing the world is easier with business than being at the government. So I decided to grow my business more. And that kind of gave me more entrepreneurship opportunities and like spirit. So we are developing our own curriculum. We're doing the AI startup. So we're expanding our education philosophy, doing that. And we're trying to change and really help a lot for the students that we face. And those generation can change another generation back then. But I don't think I can change the whole world myself in my life. But I'm trying to just spread my philosophy about education and our system and our education curriculum so that those people who experienced us can change other people too.
Now, at the origins of this company, like when you were in Irvine, in terms of the services that you provided and how you first got connected to these individuals, it was all through the YouTube content that you were posting, and that was kind of spreading the word about what you were doing?
Yes, we didn't spend like $0 in marketing. We only did YouTube channel, and we maybe expanded to Instagram. But YouTube channel was like doing 99% of the marketing that we're currently doing.
Wow.
And we currently have more than like 800 videos and shorts. And those videos and shorts, we constantly said the same thing. Although I went to MIT and I got help from the MIT, brand wasn't everything from my experience. You really should go beyond the brand, beyond the college. You should know how to utilize college, not college as an end goal. It's another starting point. And we really should tell them to the students, but then a lot of parents really also focus on the brand. They think going into the good Ivy League for their kids will give them a good life. And so did my parents thought the same thing, and I also thought the same thing, but it didn't give me happiness. So I wanted to kind of constantly say the same thing. And in the beginning, a lot of parents were like, okay, you're just speaking too ideally, like this is just not, it's just dream-like saying.
Right.
But now that we put out 800 videos and shorts, now it is going through. So recently I put out my story about how like sad I was at MIT, how like a lot of confusion that I had at Baffled when I was young. That video another gained maybe 160K views. It was also gained a lot of like empathy from people. So I was like, okay, maybe the voices are getting heard by now. Yeah.
Because I was going to say it's kind of ironic. The person who got to MIT focused on the brand name initially, went through that whole experience and then realized there wasn't that much light at the end of the tunnel, or it was a disappointment in the end. And then now you have a business where you're advising people on how to get to top schools, but it is with a very different philosophy or approach in terms of kind of telling them in advance, you know, it's not about the brand name.
Yes.
It's not about just getting to these elite schools and you being set for life. There's a lot more in the equation that needs to be accounted for.
Yeah. So during the process of running this company, like me and my co-founder also had a like confusion stage, because our philosophy was trying to help them like happy, like find themselves. But at the same time, our company goal was to get them to the top tier college.
Right.
So it was very controversial. And we're like, okay, why are we doing controversial business when we're believing differently? And we're trying to find the gap between the two. But now we believe that if you really find truly who you are and really find your brand and what societal problem that you want to solve, that will ultimately bring you to Ivy League, because that will pop you up from the application stage. You don't have to follow what other people are doing. So in order to get to the Ivy League or like top tier college, one basic line of equation is that you need to just pop up from the application. There are thousands of applications there,
right,
but you need to grab their attention from the admission officers. But Korean students are very, very similar. Their academics are really top tier.
Right.
They do math and science Olympiad.
Yes.
They do flute and violin.
Yes.
They do like taekwondo or
Right.
something. It's very similar. It's very hard to grab their attention.
Right.
So in order to be different, you don't need to be different in academic, you know, oh, let's just not study hard about academic, or
Right.
let's do like some other weird instrument. It's not that different.
Right.
But in order to be different, you need to really argue who you are and what kind of societal problem that you want to solve from what kind of background that you grew up with. Those are different for every single person, because every single person is unique. Like, I don't think there is two people who has exact same stories, exact same output, maybe like twins, maybe. But other than that, like, it's very difficult
Right.
to have a very similar life. But Korean students, they don't know how to differentiate myself from other people.
Yes.
And they don't know what they're good at, although they are shining somewhere. And we wanted to utilize that. And utilizing that also brought them to the good top tier colleges. And we are proving that with our result. We're trying to say, okay, don't follow other people. Like, find your own path. And if that path is really well branded and really top tier, that will bring you to Ivy League. So we decided to continue with the admissions, because admission is a very good bait to teach students, give them opportunity to really learn who they are. other than admissions, like people don't really dig deep about themselves, but the admission process is like very, very good opportunity for students to explore themselves. So we decided to continue with the admissions. Although our goal is not like, okay, let's get everyone to Harvard, let's get everyone to MIT, but our true goal is to really help them find who they are, which will bring them happiness in the end, and that will give them independence. But our sub goal is using that to get them to the really good top tier college if they want to. But I don't think college is for everyone either. If they want to, we help them with their goal by having a really healthy method. Like some consulting companies, they draft their own competitions and they put students to their own competitions, or they like do project for the students if they get paid. But we don't do any of that. I feel like that ultimately will bring them down. So,
and the business as it stands today, and in terms of the age range, and like if I'm, let's say, a high school freshman, and I would like to get into a top tier school, and I learn about your company and I reach out. In terms of the types of offerings that you guys have, is it pretty standardized? Are there a lot of different variations in terms of what you guys are providing?
Yes, we only accept high school students. A lot of like 7-year-old also reached out to us.
Wow.
Yeah, the parents who had 7-year-old was like, okay, I think we need to start consulting. Can you accept us? And we're like, no, too young. And even middle schoolers, I think they're pretty young. Although they should start exploring, having a consulting really should start from maybe like 8th graders. So we only accept from maybe like late 8th graders. And we provide consulting services as a boutique service. So we don't accept that many students in our company. We really customize per student, and there's a whole team getting into the one student. Like consultant, there is a manager, there's a communicating consultant, there's an essay manager, there's an interview manager, whatnot. So there's a whole team getting into the one student, because one perspective isn't enough for that one student. So we doesn't accept like as a big company, but we are pretty boutique.
With just, I guess, personal experience of asking other people about why they get into one school versus another. Oftentimes it seems like at a certain point, there is no rhyme or reason. It's just, it feels kind of random, or it's surprising. You'll have like siblings and their background, their interests, their academic performance, they all seem quite similar on the surface. And then one gets into a school and then one doesn't. And then maybe it's flipped for a different school, right? In terms of which, what they get into and what they don't. In terms of like what you've seen about the college education process and how you coach these individuals, especially when they're going through that stage, what have you seen, and what is your feedback to them in terms of how to handle it? Because most people look at these decisions as like a life or death situation, right?
Just to reframe your question, so is your question about like how should students perceive about the acceptances about the schools, or?
I guess that is one component of it, but it's also like in terms of the predictability of, let's say you have 100 candidates, right? And they apply to all the Ivy League schools. To what degree of like confidence do you have? And that's a very difficult question to measure numerically because everybody's so different. But I'm just curious, like what you see on that front.
So I would say about 70 to 80% we're pretty confident about where the student will get into. But we don't say that up front.
Of course.
Because that's very risky to the student, because I don't want them to think and limit their mind. But internally, we do know like where the student might go as a 70 to 80% chance, because academic, extracurricular, award, the level is pretty standard to the top tier colleges. But another 20-30% that's causing a lot of like outliers, it's the essays, interviews, and recommendation letters. Those subjective portion can cover other things like academics and extracurriculars and awards, which is pretty objective. So from the objective perspective, we can cover, but from the subjective perspective, it's very depends on who's reading that application. But you can tell someone is pretty unique. That can also be an objective measure too. And that's why I'm not saying 50-50, I'm saying like 70-30, but the 30 is depending on who can empathize with that application. So
that makes sense. Your return to Korea, and it's been how many years now?
3 years.
3 years. And when you first got here, in terms of how you expected it to be and how it's been so far, could you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So far, I love living in Korea because Korea is just fast at everything. It was so surprising. Like even the government thinks that I am taking care of stuff, like it's very fast compared to US.
Yes.
And, the food delivery is really fast and everything's like app-based and just really quick. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes I feel it's a bit shallow, but I can't really compare to the US because I lived in Michigan, Minnesota, Boston, and like Irvine. And those cities were all different, as if different nations.
Right.
So I don't know if I can compare to US, but compared to Irvine, which has been my, like lately where I was living right before Korea, it was very different from Irvine to Seoul, Korea, for obvious reason, as LA is different from Irvine too. But overall, like, I love living in Korea because I get to meet a lot of people really easily and the food is great.
Yes.
And it's a bit cheaper than US. And I can get to mountain, ocean, or like everywhere in a very quick manner. And the system is really well set up. And I still have hopes for Korean people and Korean culture and Korean as a country.
Yes.
Although Korean people don't really have hopes in Korea, I still do. So I still want to work for Korea. I still want to do my best for Korea as a country to live more happier.
Yes.
Maybe not in a money wise, but more in an education space. So I'm trying my future goal is to really visit a lot of Korean schools and Korean students to really help them enlighten about their life and about their experiences.
I'm going to do a quick time check because we'll have to wrap up soon, but maybe two questions to close. One is in terms of your observations of Korea. Like you said, you do have hope, right?
Yes.
It seems like a lot of people in their 20s and 30s that grew up in Korea, they don't have a lot of hope. The demographic challenges is going to be a massive challenge. With what I'm doing with Cambridge, my hope is that by engaging kind of different types of Korean heritage identities, both people that are like Korean American like myself, or that are cross-cultural Korean US, like maybe like yourself, or even people that were born and raised here, but they learned English, they have some global interests, that by connecting them, hosting events, all of this, there are more opportunities for positive sum types of dynamics, right? But sometimes I wonder if you're fighting a tide that is too strong to fight against. In terms of the things that you think need to change most in Korea, maybe specifically amongst the youth, is it like whether it's mindsets or ambition or the way that they think about how the world works? Like if you could, I guess, like inject a couple of like ideas or new views or perspectives towards life into the Korean youth, are there a few things that you think are like critical priorities that need to change?
Yes. So I define success as if someone knows really well about themselves and can be proud about, like really confident about who they are. I define that as success. Because if someone knows that, okay, money is making me happy, then they can drive for the money. If the family makes me happy, they can drive for the family. Or if having a societal problem is driving me really motivation and happy, then they can drive for that. But I feel like a lot of Korean students, they only drive for money and security. And that's why a lot of the doctor as a career, lawyer, or the big company is a very popular job here in Korea. And also like a government related careers like 공무원. So those are very popular in Korea because Korean people really think about security. I think that comes from the historical reason and the cultural reason, but I wish that they can just really, I'm not trying to say go out of your comfort zone or just be risky, but I'm just saying that try to know deeply about what you like and what you're good at. I feel like everyone has somewhere to be lightened up and be best at. But not everyone is best at being a doctor, right? So I don't know why doctor is just so popular in Korea. And I do have a doubt that everyone who's applying for the doctor, do they really have a passion for a doctor?
Right.
So I really wish they can really learn about themselves and the true societal problem they want to solve using their skill sets. And I think that will ultimately bring them money and happiness. There's a diagram called Ikigai. So I really love that diagram. It's about like what you like, what you're good at, what societal needs from me, and why it can bring me money. I think those four are the really core components that Korean students really think of, but they only think about money portion. I think they're missing the other three.
Right.
So, and we're trying to teach them using our curriculum in my company too, try to feel that ikigai for the high school students because they do have a motivation to go to the college.
Yeah. With all the LLM AI technology, there's a lot of talk about AI alignment, right? And the idea of if these powerful AI technologies are aligned with human interests and human desires, then we'll be set up well for the future. And if they're not properly aligned, then it can be pretty catastrophic. But it also seems like maybe the more important thing is just like human alignment in general. Like how aligned are you with yourself, right? Of you kind of describing what are my passions, what are my skill sets, and how many different of these circles can I get to overlap together, because that might lead to like ultimate happiness. I said I would ask only 2 questions, but I do want to take one quick detour, which is in the prior conversation that we have, you had made mention of your husband and the work that he's doing, right? You just recently got married. Can you share just like, I know I'm sure there's a much longer story behind it, but in terms of the work that he's doing, I mean, part of my excitement and interest in Cambridge is that kind of like you discover, there are these Korean heritage people all over the world doing fascinating things. And I think maybe your husband's a good example of that.
Sure. I mean, it's really awesome how you're running the K-Bridge too, because I was really afraid that a lot of Korean people are leaving Korea to US and other countries for opportunities. And then ultimately will leave Korea as someone just an employees. So I feel like Korea will be a country where other country will come to find employees, not a leader. And the leaders are leaving Korea, but you're regathering them as a whole, connecting, not as a country, but from the world perspective.
Yes.
You're creating another Korea. So that's really impressive. And thanks for bringing my husband as a question too.
Yes.
It's really weird to say husband.
Yes, I can imagine.
It's been a month.
Yeah.
So my husband is doing a coffee business in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. But he is doing coffee business with a mission in Christianity. So in the beginning, he wanted to rescue the red light district girls and really teach them about like Jesus and Christianity. But he found out that even if he rescued them, they don't know how to survive after that. So teaching them about Jesus and Christianity wasn't enough for them. So my husband was already doing coffee business back in Irvine. And then he sold everything and he brought that money back to Bangkok. And then he's rebuilding the coffee business there. He currently have 2 cafes and just launched a month or 2 months ago.
Wow.
And it's doing really well. And he's trying to support the society in Bangkok too. So he has a heart in Bangkok for the red light district girls and really to help the missionaries all over the world for them to connect. He also has a similar vision as you. Your vision is to connect Koreans, but his vision is to connect missionaries. So he's trying to build cafes all over the world for missionaries to stay and for them to be connecting to each other for another community.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And how long has he been doing this now for?
He's been doing coffee for about like 8 years, but he moved to Bangkok for about like 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
So
amazing.
Yeah.
My now wife is like obsessed with Thai food, and so we've been wanting to take a trip to Thailand. So eventually, when we go and we visit, we'll have to check out the cafe. It would be amazing if there are enough Korean heritage types of folks in Thailand to maybe do some sort of a Cambridge event at his like cafe.
Oh my goodness.
That would be really fun.
We'll help with that.
Okay. We'll make it happen. We can wrap up here. In terms of best places to get in touch with you, I imagine there will be maybe some people, high school students or just young ambitious people that are interested in connecting. What's the best way?
Yeah. So my Instagram is MIT _언니 UNNI, and my YouTube channel is MIT 공대 언니, which is MIT 언니 again. Okay. MYCC. So those 2 will be the best. Or LinkedIn, maybe. If you type Miri Choi MIT, probably I'll pop up.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think obviously with the mission that you have for your own company, it's very aligned with Cambridge as well. And I'm excited for you to present tonight and share the Return to Korea story. Thank you for doing the podcast.
Thank you. It was awesome.
My pleasure.